Read the invitation twice. Because the first time through, it sounds like a baby shower. The second time through, it sounds like a fundraiser with a velvet rope. Purchase a gift. Send us the receipt. Once the receipt is verified, we'll send you the address. That's not a shower. That's a soft ticketing system dressed up in pastel. And it's dropping less than 2 weeks before a woman who's been carrying 4 different conception dates in the same trimester is supposedly getting her membranes stripped. 4 different dates. 1 baby. 1 invitation that reads like a Ticketmaster confirmation. Look, hold that thought, we're gonna walk through it slow. Real quick before the paper comes out. If this is the kind of breakdown that fits your feed, the button below the video already knows what to do, and the bell too, cause the next one on this case is already halfway written. Nevaeh Akira posted the invite to her Instagram story on July 31st, 2026, routing all RSVPs through R&B, the partner of Cash Whack 100 Jones, and gating attendance behind a purchased item from a registry and a screenshot of a receipt sent to R&B's DMs. The move follows a cancelled shower Nevaeh publicly walked back on July 23rd, citing a $6,000 to $7,000 cost she said she couldn't cover. She's inside the 39-week window she flagged on stream. Blueface, legal name Jonathan Michael Porter, is the co-host, the co-parent-to-be, and, per his own past debt admissions, not the funder. There's a second name on the accounting side of this story that the shower posts haven't foregrounded, and it matters for where the RSVP list actually lands. Whack 100, born Cash Jones, doesn't just manage Blueface. He co-owns the label Blueface is signed to. Cash Money West, the West Coast subdivision of Cash Money Records, was founded as a joint venture between Whack 100 and Birdman, distributed through Republic Records under the Universal Music Group umbrella. That's 4 entities between the artist and the money, and Whack 100 sits at 2 of those checkpoints simultaneously, as both label co-owner and management. Meanwhile, in Department 25 of the Los Angeles County Superior Court, Judge Peter A. Hernandez entered a default defamation judgment against Porter in April 2025, $123,243.10, including $100,000 for pain and suffering, $18,000 in special damages, and roughly $5,200 in attorney fees and legal costs. By December 2025, interest pushed that figure to $131,655. And by June 2026, a court order redirected his ASCAP and BMI royalties directly to the judgment creditor. The man whose partner is gatekeeping a baby shower has a revenue stream on court-ordered autopilot. File that. We're coming back to it. Let's put the pieces on the table before we start connecting anything. Nevaeh's story, posted July 31st. If anyone wants to attend our baby shower, contact R&B, get my registry from her as well. Even if you can't make it, we will be shouting you out for the gift you purchase for the baby. I currently can't respond to any DMs until August 12th. That's the direct language, not paraphrased. That's what she posted. The formal invite that dropped alongside it reads, verbatim, "Please join us for Blueface and Nevaeh's baby shower, celebrating the next chapter of our growing family. Admission is by purchasing at least 1 gift from Nevaeh's baby registry. Send your receipt once you've made your purchase. After your receipt is verified, you will receive the baby shower location and event details. 3-step admission. Purchase. Verify. Then, and only then, do you find out where you're going. Rewind 8 days. July 23rd, 2026. Nevaeh goes live and confirms she's canceling the whole thing. Reason on record. Cost. The reported figure floating in the room was $6,000 to $7,000. That's a Tier 2 receipt. It's what she said out loud on a stream that got clipped and archived, not a document. But it's her mouth. Now rewind further. Carlissa Saffold, Sav, Blueface mother, was reported early on as the one working on the shower. That fell apart. Public timeline puts the fallout between Nevaeh and Carlissa in the weeks before the July 23rd cancellation. Nevaeh went from "we're doing the shower" to "we're not doing the shower" to "we're doing the shower, but you have to buy your way in inside a 30-day window. And then, the tape most people are still spinning. The car ride from the OB appointment. Blueface, on camera, asking his pregnant girlfriend about the conception date again. Her answer, December 1st. That's what the OBGYN told us. His follow-up, You do know I was with you on Christmas, right? You do know that, right? I got you gifts and everything. Her counter, well, was you with me on December 1st? His response, yes. She lands the closer, and ever since we've been to the OBGYN, the date hasn't changed. Nothing hasn't changed. Sit with the language of that last line for one beat. Ever since we've been to the OBGYN. Not since day one. Not since the test. Since the appointment, which is not the same window. Here's what the original folder didn't have room for. 3 more filings, 3 more receipts, each one sitting in the same stack. The first is a court order, not a post. On June 11, 2026, as reported by TMZ and confirmed by Complex, Los Angeles County Superior Court Judge Peter A. Hernandez granted a request from Jackilyn Martinez, the mother of Soulja Boy's child, to redirect all of Blueface ASCAP and BMI royalties toward the outstanding defamation judgment he owes her. The order states that the redirection remains ongoing until the debt is settled. That's a Tier 1 receipt, a signed court order, filed in Los Angeles County, recorded in the public docket. His music revenue is on a leash, not allegedly, filed. Blueface's own reaction to that order, recorded on Twitch, archived, and reported by XXL on December 28, 2025, lands like this. Give me the subs, I gotta pay Soulja Boy's child support. Cause he going broke. So his baby mama needs some money. I'ma get baby some new shoes. Cause Soulja ain't got it, clearly. Let's sub up so we can get her little $100,000. Whatever she want, $130,000. We can have that by next week. Cause Soulja ain't got it. That's his mouth. On camera. Cracking jokes about a 6-figure garnishment while his royalties are being rerouted. File the tone. We're coming back to it. The second filing is older but still live. In December 2023, Jackilyn Martinez filed a $10 million defamation lawsuit against Porter after he posted, during an online feud with Soulja Boy, that he had sex with Martinez the day before her baby shower and publicly claimed her child might be his. Martinez denied the claims in a court declaration, stating she had only had protected sex with Porter once, in 2018, and had no further contact. The court entered a default judgment in April 2025 after Porter failed to respond to the suit. Filed. Signed. Defaulted. Tier 1. And then there's the label paper. In a January 2019 Breakfast Club interview that DJ Booth covered in detail, Porter was asked about his record deal. His response, on camera, all I know is Cash Money West and Whack 100. It could be. You gotta ask Whack about that. He didn't know he was signed to 4 entities. Cash Money West, the imprint, jointly owned by Whack 100 and Birdman. Cash Money Records, the parent. Republic Records, the distributor. Universal Music Group, the major. Whack 100 sits at 2 of those 4 checkpoints. His label co-owner and manager. When asked directly, the artist himself didn't know the full chain. One more. Carlissa Saffold's involvement in the shower didn't end with a quiet exit. After the gender reveal in early March 2026, Carlissa publicly suggested Nevaeh needed a DNA test before making decisions at Blueface House, a remark Nevaeh reportedly responded to by blocking her. The Shade Room covered the fallout. So the grandmother-to-be was publicly demanding a DNA test on the same pregnancy that's now being celebrated with a receipt-gated shower. That tension didn't dissolve. It got archived. Flat. Okay, so now we start lining the dates up next to each other because the invite doesn't live in isolation. It lives on top of a stack. Timeline. Blueface is released from prison November 3, 2025. The pregnancy announcement drops in a live stream on Sunday, February 22, 2026. By late February, they publicly confirmed 12 weeks, which back-calculates the estimated delivery to August 24, 2026, and this is the number that keeps mattering, pins conception around the first week of December 2025. Between then and now, the conception window on Nevaeh's own broadcasts has moved multiple times. November. Early December. December 1st specifically. Christmas Day. 4 distinct dates for the same baby is the count the audience is holding, and, real talk, the audience isn't wrong to hold it. Because a woman 5 months into a pregnancy generally has 1 date, not 4. She has one that her OB gave her, and maybe a rough estimate she was carrying in her head before that. 4 is a data point. Now, the shower. Carlissa was on it. Carlissa's off it. The public reasoning tracks with a falling out that got messy publicly. Then Nevaeh cancels the July shower on cost. Cost gets reported at $6,000 to $7,000. 8 days later, the same shower reactivates, but it reactivates as a pay-to-enter model with R&B as the gatekeeper. Wait, let me reread that. Because R&B isn't just anyone. She's WAC 100's partner. WAC 100 has been Blueface manager, mouthpiece, and public defender for years. Routing the shower's RSVP list through R&B doesn't just solve a logistics problem. It plants the guest list, the registry pings, and the address distribution inside the same infrastructure that manages Blueface public affairs. That's not a friend hosting a shower. That's a team hosting an operation. The WAC 100 R&B sit-down about Blueface and Chrisin's dynamic exists on record. The interview is public, time-stamped, and covered. So the relationship between R&B and this camp is documented. She's not a stranger to the situation. She's inside the situation. And look, the pattern doesn't require you to squint. Nevaeh says she can't fund the shower. Then a system appears where 100% of the intake is items purchased by fans and delivered before the address is released. The people paying for the shower are everyone except the parents. If that reads uncharitably, walk it back and ask what a more generous framing would sound like. I've been trying to write one for 10 minutes and it keeps coming back to guests are funding the event. That's what the invitation says out loud. But here's the layer underneath that I had to pull a second chair up to trace. Because the royalty garnishment, the June 2026 court order redirecting his ASCAP and BMI income, doesn't just sit in the background of this story. It sits inside the timeline. The default judgment lands in April 2025, while Porter is still incarcerated. The interest pushes the debt from $123,243 to $131,655 by December 2025, 1 month after his release. The BMI ASCAP seizure order lands in June 2026. That's 6 weeks before the shower cancellation on July 23rd. 6 weeks before Nevaeh cites cost as the reason. His music revenue, the primary income stream for a rapper who, per Booth's reporting, didn't even know how many labels he was signed to, is now flowing to a judgment creditor, not to him. And the shower gets cancelled for cost. The pattern lines up. I'm not naming what it lines up as. It lines up. There's a parallel financial track running alongside this that the shower coverage hasn't touched. Jaden Alexis, the mother of Blueface's 2 older children, went public in May 2026 demanding $10,000 a month in child support or a courtroom, as reported and archived across multiple outlets. Meanwhile, Blueface reportedly gives Nevaeh a $10,000 monthly allowance, documented in posts circulating in the same window. So the math on the household isn't just can't afford a shower. It's one woman is receiving $10,000, another woman is demanding $10,000, the royalty pipeline is court redirected, and the shower costs $6 to $7,000. Those numbers share a table. They don't require interpretation. They require arithmetic. And then the Carlissa timeline tightens another notch. Carlissa demanded a DNA test publicly in March 2026, got blocked, and the shower planning reportedly collapsed in the weeks that followed. The DNA test demand and the shower cancellation aren't two stories. They are the same story at 2 timestamps. The grandmother wanted proof. The mother cancelled the event. The event came back, but it came back through WAC 100's household, not Carlissa's. The infrastructure changed. The guest list changed. The funding model changed. The question Carlissa raised didn't change. It's still sitting there. If you caught the gap between the garnishment order and the cancellation, 6 weeks, you already know where this is heading. And if you didn't, pull the 2 dates back up and put them side by side. The paper doesn't need me to narrate it. It just needs to be laid flat. The fine print. Zoom in on step 2 of the invitation. Send your receipt once you've made your purchase. Read the noun. Receipt. Not confirmation number. Not gift status. Receipt. Meaning the dollar amount is visible on the intake side. Meaning the R&B DM inbox becomes a running ledger of who spent what, which, whether it's intentional or not, creates a hierarchy of guests before anyone walks through the door. High spenders get seen. Low spenders get seen too. Nobody's anonymous. That's a design choice. The OB line. Back to that ride home tape. Nevaeh's exact phrasing, "Ever since we've been to the OBRGYN, the date hasn't changed." Read it again out loud. Ever since. That's a limiting phrase. It brackets the truth window to the period after the OB visit. It doesn't say the date was always December 1st. It says the date has been consistent since the appointment. Which, okay, that's technically fine. Doctors adjust dates all the time. Ultrasounds recalibrate. But the phrasing implicitly concedes that the pre-OB dates were different. And then she seals it. "The next pregnancy we won't be sharing with y'all." Blueface responds, quote, "Yeah, that's your fault. Keep throwing dates up there." He's on camera saying she keeps throwing dates up there. Not a hater in the comments. The father of the baby. R&BS role. Third lens. Who's the party of record on this event? Because if R&B is verifying receipts, receiving DMs, and dispatching the location, she is functionally the event coordinator. Whether there's a formal arrangement or friendly favor, she's the point of accountability for the logistics, which means if anything goes sideways, a no-show, a gift dispute, a leaked address, the trail runs through her, not the parents. That's an interesting risk distribution move for someone whose partner is professionally adjacent to Blueface. The revenue vacuum. Had to pull the label contract up a second time before I trusted what I was looking at. Because the garnishment order doesn't just reduce income, it structurally redirects the pipeline. ASCAP and BMI royalties are the performance and broadcast revenue streams for a recording artist. They are the money that flows when the music gets played, on streaming, on radio, in public. When a court order reroutes those payments to a judgment creditor, the artist doesn't see reduced income. He sees none from those channels. The order, filed in Los Angeles County Superior Court, remains in effect until the $131,655 debt is cleared. And Porter's own Twitch reaction, "Give me the subs, I gotta pay Soldier Boy's child support," confirms he knows the pipe is redirected. He's joking about it. On stream, asking for subscriptions to cover a court-ordered garnishment. So when the shower gets cancelled for cost 8 weeks later, the cost isn't a vague constraint. It's a specific financial posture, royalty revenue court redirected, child support demands from 2 households active, and a Twitch stream functioning as a tip jar. The shower was never going to clear on internal funds. The registry model solved that. The dates as a verbal pattern. One more lens. Because the conception date wobble isn't just a factual problem, it's a linguistic pattern. Across the broadcasts, the dates Nevaeh names aren't estimates. They are calendar-specific. November, December 1st, Christmas Day. Those are days she can point to. And every time the date shifts, it shifts to a day that has a narrative attached, a day someone was there, a day something happened, a day that can be confirmed or denied by a third party. That's not how someone talks about a due date their doctor gave them. That's how someone talks about a story they're telling about when something happened. The medical estimate, the 12-week confirmation that pins conception to early December, is the one fixed number in the stack, and it's the one number Nevaeh doesn't repeat on the car ride. She goes to December 1st specifically. The medical calculation says early December. December 1st is early December. But it's also a specific day she can defend. The phrasing isn't medical. It's evidentiary. And Blueface, keep throwing dates up there, is calling it what it is, on camera, in real time. The grandmother's archive demand. Carlos's DNA test comment didn't vanish when Nevaeh blocked her. The remark, and the blocking, got covered, archived, and reposted across multiple fan pages and media accounts. Which means the grandmother's public doubt about the pregnancy's paternity is sitting in the same digital folder as the shower invitation. 2 documents. One says buy a gift to get the address. The other says get a DNA test before she starts making decisions. Same family, same pregnancy, same archive. The invitation doesn't address the doubt. It doesn't acknowledge it. It just moves past it. As if the question Carlos raised was a scheduling conflict instead of a paternity challenge. If you spotted the tension between those 2 posts existing in the same timeline, drop the timestamps, because the gap between them is where the actual story lives. Different corners of the internet are running this story with wildly different verbs. The sympathy frame, the one you'll see on the fan pages that have been rocking with Nevaeh since February, reads it as resourceful. She figured out how to still have her shower after Carlos bailed. She's not letting anyone steal her moment. This frame emphasizes agency. frames the registry as smart, frames the receipt requirement as security theater to keep haters out. The judgmental frame, the one running through the older mother demographic in the comments, reads it as tacky. You don't charge admission to a shower. You don't gate a family event behind a Walmart list. This isn't a wedding. This frame emphasizes decorum. Words like tacky, grifting, begging are landing in the top comment tier under the invite reposts. And then the conception date frame, the loudest one, and the one the audience is genuinely stuck on, reads the whole invitation as a distraction from an unresolved question. She's rolling out logistics for a baby shower for a baby whose date of conception she still can't lock down. Somebody's going to Jackilyn Nevaeh's position, so let me do it before the comments do. Here's the strongest defense. Pregnancy dating is genuinely imprecise. OBs typically use the last menstrual period, which can be off by a week or more depending on cycle regularity. Early ultrasounds refine the estimate. Later ultrasounds refine it again. It is medically normal for a due date to shift once or twice during a pregnancy. The number of conception dates a woman references in casual conversation is not the same thing as the number of medical estimates her OB has given her. That's the honest, generous version. That deserves respect. But here's where the paper doesn't cooperate. Nevaeh isn't cycling through estimates. She's cycling through specific events. November, December 1st, Christmas. Those aren't ultrasound recalibrations. Those are calendar days she's naming as the day the pregnancy started. And the conversation on camera between her and Blueface has the two of them actively negotiating which calendar day it was, with him citing Christmas because that's what the belly said, and her walking that back to December 1st and clarifying that the Christmas woman wasn't an OBGYN, that was just a lady that helped us figure out what we were having. So the Steelman holds on the medical side but doesn't hold on the specific day side. And that's why the frame won't die. There's a fourth frame running underneath the other three that the coverage hasn't named, and it's the one the financial press would lead with if this were a corporate story instead of a tabloid one. The solvency frame. Outlets covering the shower invite, the blogs, the fan pages, the reaction channels, are treating the registry model as a lifestyle choice or a social media stunt. None of them are pulling the garnishment order into the same frame. None of them are mentioning that the father's royalty pipeline is court redirected. None of them are citing the $131,655 debt or the dual child support obligations as context for why a $6,000 to $7,000 shower might not clear on internal funds. Complex covered the royalty seizure as a standalone legal story. XXL covered the Twitch reaction as a viral moment. The Shade Room covered the child support dispute as relationship drama. Not one outlet put the garnishment, the child support, and the register-gated shower in the same article. The financial through line is sitting in plain sight across three separate coverage tracks, and nobody's merged the files. The framing war isn't just between sympathy and judgment. It's between entertainment coverage and financial reporting. And the entertainment side is winning, because the shower invite is softer, lighter, and easier to screenshot than a court order redirecting BMI royalties. Now, the comments section is going to bring one more defense, and it's different from the medical Steelman. It goes like this: registry links are normal. Every baby shower has one. Plenty of showers ask guests to buy from a specific list. This isn't new, it's just public. That's the normalization argument. And on the surface, it's fair. Registries are standard. Gift lists are standard. Nobody disputes that. But the normalization defense breaks at step 2. A standard registry says, here's what we need if you'd like to buy something. This invitation says, buy something, and your receipt gets verified, and then you get the address. A standard registry is a wish list attached to an open invitation. This is a transactional gate attached to a withheld location. The registry isn't the issue. The receipt verification step is the issue. The address conditional on purchase mechanic is the issue. No standard baby shower, none, requires proof of spend before disclosing where the event is being held. That's the delta. And the delta is where the normalization argument runs out of paper. I'll concede one thing, though, because I want to be fair to the counterread. It's genuinely possible that the receipt requirement started as a security measure, a way to filter out trolls and crashes in a situation where the family dynamics are publicly volatile. Carlos's falling out, the Crisian rock history, the internet's tendency to show up uninvited. Those are real factors. If the receipt gate began as a filter, it's a defensible design choice that got layered onto a funding problem. The problem is that a security filter and a funding mechanism produce the same structural output. Fans purchase items. The items arrive before the event, and the parent's out-of-pocket drops to zero. Intent doesn't change the structure. The structure is what the paper shows. Here's where we sit down and say the thing the mainstream posts are dancing around. The dominant read online is that this is a story about a couple being messy in public. That's the shallow read. The deeper read, the one the paper actually supports, is that this is a story about PR choreography. Every move on this timeline reads staged. Not staged like fake, staged like managed. Watch the sequence. Pregnancy announcement dropped as a live stream event with 2 positive tests held to camera on a Sunday, February 22nd, in prime social media cycle time. 12-week confirmation dropped shortly after, again with a hard number and a specific due date designed to be screenshot and reshared. Every ambiguous moment, the conception date wobble, the on-camera cheating admission with Christine Rock's name attached, the shower cancellation, the shower reopening, is being meted out on a schedule that keeps the couple in the algorithm's feed. Not accidentally. That's how this camp has operated for years. Zoom out one level. Blueface owes money. His debt situation is documented in his own words in his back and forth with the mother of his 2 older kids. Jaden Alexis went public in May 2026 asking for $10,000 in monthly child support or a courtroom. He's also been publicly accused of stopping payments on daycare and birthdays for his older children. This is not a man in a position to fund a $6,000 to $7,000 baby shower out of pocket. So when the shower gets cancelled for cost and then reopens as a fan-funded model, that's not a mystery. That's a solution being publicly announced without being publicly named. The economics of the shower were never going to work on internal money. They only work on external money. So the invitation was engineered to bring in external money. Say it plain, the baby shower is functioning as a soft fundraiser gated by a registry. That's the structure. Whether Nevaeh intended it that way or not, that's what the paper shows. And here's the sharpened jab. The shower opened while the conception date question was still visibly unresolved on her own broadcasts. If you were trying to redirect attention from a controversy, you would not schedule the redirect during the controversy. Unless the redirect is the strategy. Unless the whole point of the shower announcement dropping on July 31st was to give the comment sections a shinier, softer, easier thing to talk about than 4 different conception dates. The mainstream posts are calling this messy. It's not messy. Messy is chaotic. This is choreographed. There's a difference. Messy leaves paper on the floor. Choreographed uses the paper to build a wall around the conversation you don't want happening. I'll hedge 1 degree. It's possible, genuinely possible, that Nevaeh just wanted a baby shower and the mechanics of it came together organically without a strategist in the room. I don't fully believe that, but I acknowledge it. What I don't buy is that the timing of the July 31st drop, 8 days after public cancellation, gated through WAC 100's partner, on a debt-carrying father's watch, during an unresolved conception date discourse, is a series of unrelated coincidences. Too many receipts stacked the other way. Okay, I have to pause on something specific, because there's a receipt in this folder I keep coming back to, and I think it deserves its own beat. The Twitch clip. The one where Porter is asking for subscriptions to pay off the Soulja Boy judgment. Give me the subs, I gotta pay Soulja Boy's child support. That's not a man who's embarrassed about being broke. That's a man who's moneizing being broke. He turned a court-ordered garnishment into a content stream. He looked at a 6-figure debt and saw a bit. Which means, when the baby shower reopens as a fan-funded model 8 weeks later, the instinct to convert a financial shortfall into audience participation isn't new behavior for this camp. It's a reflex. The Twitch stream was the rehearsal. The registry was the second stage. Same mechanic, different payload. If that feels like a stretch, trace it yourself. The garnishment order, the Twitch reaction, the shower cancellation, the registry gate. 4 beats. 1 pattern. The man converts liabilities into content. The shower is the latest conversion. And while we're sharpening, the outlet coverage deserves its own jab. Complex ran the royalty seizure as a music business legal brief. XXL ran the Twitch reaction as a viral personality moment. The Shade Room ran the child support demands as relationship drama. 3 outlets, 3 tracks, 0 overlap. Nobody merged the files. The financial throughline, garnished royalties, dual support obligations, a cancelled shower, a fan-funded replacement, is sitting across 3 bylines and nobody picked up the scissors. That's not a failure of reporting. That's a format choice. Entertainment coverage doesn't traffic in financial throughline. It traffics in moments. And the shower invite is a moment. The garnishment order is a document. Documents don't trend. Moments do. So the story the public gets is the moment, the pastel invitation, the receipt gate, the 4 conception dates, and the story the public doesn't get is the document. A man whose income is court redirected, whose household is running on allowances and Twitch subs, and whose baby shower is being funded by the same audience that watches him joke about his own garnishment on stream. That's the read the press won't print. Not because it's false. Because it's uncomfortable to format. One more jab, and this one's almost sympathetic. Nevaeh is in a position that most of the comment section has never had to navigate. She's pregnant. She's public. Her partner's mother has demanded a DNA test on Instagram. Her partner's ex is demanding $10,000 a month in the same window. Her partner's royalty income is legally rerouted. And she's trying to have a baby shower. The instinct to salvage the event, to find some way to make it happen, is human. The problem isn't the instinct. The problem is the mechanism. You can want a shower and still build a door that charges admission. The want doesn't sanitize the door. And then the absurdist jab, because at a certain point the paper gets funny. The man whose BMI royalties are garnished is co-hosting a shower where the admission mechanism is a receipt. A receipt. The same document that a court uses to verify a transaction is the document his girlfriend is asking fans to produce before they get an address. The legal system and the baby shower are running on the same paperwork. If you wrote that into a script, the notes would say 2 on the nose. But it's not a script. It's a filing and an Instagram story sitting in the same week. The deepest jab, though, the one I keep landing on, is aimed at the choreography itself. Because choreography implies a choreographer. And the choreographer here isn't Nevaeh. She's the one on camera. She's the face. But the infrastructure, the R&B routing, the WAC 100 adjacency, the label management dual role, the Twitch as tip jar reflex, that's his infrastructure. That's the camp's machinery. Nevaeh posted the invite. But the invite runs on rails that were laid down years before she entered the picture. The registry gate is a fan-funded mechanism. The Twitch sub drive is a fan-funded mechanism. The label deal is a WAC 100 owned mechanism. All 3 funnel audience money toward the same household. The shower isn't an outlier. It's a continuation. The verdict doesn't change. The baby shower is a soft fundraiser. The paper shows it. The structure confirms it. The timing reinforces it. And the press, across Complex, XXL, the Shade Room, and every reaction channel covering the invite, hasn't merged the files. Watch what happens when the address goes out. The first fan who receives event details after submitting a receipt will screenshot the address, and it will be on Instagram inside an hour. Whether that leak is corrected, ignored, or turned into another livestream moment will tell you exactly how tight the operation actually is. The likely landing, a small, controlled turnout, a heavily filmed room, and a highlight reel that pushes into everyone's feed by the 2nd week of August, right before the induction window Nevaeh flagged. Once that highlight reel drops, watch how the registry itself gets reframed. The receipts, the dollar amounts, the item lists, the gift confirmations become background props in a content cycle. The shower footage becomes the asset. The registry was the funding mechanism. The footage is the return. And if the return outperforms the cost of the gifts, which, in engagement terms, it almost certainly will, the model doesn't retire after one use. It scales. By the next life cycle event, a birthday, a gender reveal for a future pregnancy, a milestone, expect the same gate, possibly with a higher minimum spend, because the first round proved the audience will pay. Don't be shocked when the price of attendance quietly increases between the first and second iteration. The first shower is the pilot. The second is the product. Don't be surprised if the conception date discourse resurfaces the moment the baby arrives, because the baby will have measurements. Measurements will imply a birth window, and that birth window will get compared against Christmas, December 1st, November, and the 4th date, whichever it was. The internet has been running receipts on far less. Once the birth announcement drops, expect the pediatric weight number to become a top comment across every repost of this story. That's the wild card. The baby's own body becomes a piece of evidence in a discourse it never signed up for. And the counter-argument, the one that says the due date was always August 24th, the baby will come in that window, and the discourse will fizzle, fails on its own timeline. Because a baby born at 38 weeks and a baby born at 41 weeks produce different conception windows. The due date is a target, not a timestamp. The actual delivery date is the receipt the internet has been waiting for. By the time the birth announcement lands, expect at least 3 fan-run timeline reconstructions to surface within 48 hours, each one cross-referencing the delivery date against the 4 conception dates Nevaeh named on stream. The opposition's failure prediction is built into the biology. The baby's arrival date will either confirm or contradict one of the 4 windows, and there's no outcome where all 4 survive the comparison. The discourse doesn't fizzle. It resolves. And the resolution is the part nobody in this camp has planned for, because you can't choreograph a birth weight. The 5U residue is where this actually matters. Because whatever happens with Blueface and Nevaeh specifically, this invitation just quietly normalized a template. Registry-gated attendance. Receipt-verified admission. Address released on purchase. That template is going to reappear at other events across the culture over the next 18 to 24 months. Somebody's going to look at this invite and file it away as a working model, and by the time the next public-facing baby shower drops with the same 3-step admission flow, we'll all pretend it was invented then. This was the trial run. And the trial run happened here. And the residue doesn't stop at baby showers. The mechanism, prove you paid before you get access, is portable. It ports to album listening parties. It ports to meet and greets. It ports to any event where the host wants to convert audience enthusiasm into guaranteed revenue while framing it as exclusivity. By 2028, expect at least one major artist to deploy a receipt-gated event model that traces its DNA directly back to this invitation. The opposition will say that's just the creator economy evolving. And they'll be partially right, but they'll be wrong about where it started. It didn't start with a SaaS platform or ticketing startup. It started with an Instagram story, a DM inbox, and a pregnancy that couldn't lock down a conception date. The innovation wasn't the technology. The innovation was the audacity and the discovery that an audience will fund your lifecycle event if you frame the ask as an invitation instead of a bill. Once that discovery is public, it doesn't get undiscovered. The template is out. The next window will tell us whether the culture rejects it or absorbs it. My read, it absorbs. Because the audience that paid for this shower will pay for the next one too. And the one after that. The gate doesn't close. It replicates. That's the paper. 4 conception dates, 1 gatekeeper who happens to be WAC 100's partner, a debt-heavy father who suddenly doesn't have to fund his own shower, and an invitation dressed up like a party that reads like a Kickstarter. You saw what you saw. Drop where you land in the comments, team choreographed or team coincidence, because the team is reading. Like button, subscribe, notifications on so the next drop doesn't get buried. The address is going out any day now, and when it does, Wrap and Receipt will be watching who screenshots first.